Good evening to you all. Welcome to Beauty That Lies Skin Deep. My name is Bushra Mansoor. I'm a final year student and one of the hosts of this webinar, along with Dr. Lena Mariam and Dr. Insha Ishad. We're contented to be joined by Dr. Farheen Khan, a knowledgeable and experienced resident dermatologist currently working at KBN Hospital, Gulbarga. We are fortunate to conduct this webinar under SIMSA, a government-recognized association of South Indian medical students, representing them on international platforms and providing exposure for South Indian medicos. The topic that we will discuss today is UV-related hyperpigmentation, melasma, and sunscreen. If you have any doubts during the session, please don't hesitate to ask in the comment section below. At the end of the session, we will be posting a post-webinar feedback form on the YouTube comment section. Please do fill this form to receive the certificate. I would now like to welcome Dr. Farheen, Dr. Lena, and Dr. Insha to kickstart the webinar.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. So for those who are still joining us, they're also welcome. So today, this is Dr. Farheen Khan. So today I'm going to talk about beauty that lies skin deep. And we'll also give you an idea about hyperpigmentation, melasma and sunscreen. So let's start with brief introduction about hyperpigmentation. Can we have the PPT please? Okay, let's start the presentation. Click on the present button, please. Okay. So we all know that photoprotection is often ignored and hence regular sunscreen is not followed in India. So Indian population also presents a large variety of sun-induced damage, including hyperpigmentation and photoaging. We people from Asia, usually we are so much exposed to UV rays and that damages our skin DNA that leads to hyperpigmentation and skin aging and loss of collagen. So we'll have the next slide. I'll tell you about hyperpigmentation. Yeah. So mainly hyperpigmentation is a skin condition where patches of the skin become darker than the rest of the body parts, be it face, neck, around the mouth or around the eyes. Okay, it is mainly darker due to the more deposition of the melanin. Melanin is a kind of pigment which is present already inside the body, inside the cells of the skin. Those cells are known as melanocytes. So they are produced in those cells in clusters, but are always harmless and can occur in any type of skin and at any stage of age. So hyperpigmentation of skin tones throughout the world is well documented, and some skin tones being reported as more susceptible to pigmentation disorders than others, especially in Asia and India. Can we have the next slide, please? So let's see the causes of hyperpigmentation. Sun exposure is the main cause here, and next comes the skin inflammation. And melasma is also one of the causative disorder of hyperpigmentation. Always, like, hyperpigmentation is a condition and melasma is a disorder. Okay. Next come the cause age spots, that is solar lentigens. And there are certain other drugs that also cause hyperpigmentation, that is such as minocyclines and some other drugs also. Can we have the next slide, please? So let's talk about how does melanin produce inside the skin. Okay, and how do we define the complexion of the skin? So melanin is produced by epidermal melanocytes. Epidermal melanocytes are the cells present in the epidermis, that is superficial layer of the skin. Okay, they are produced through the enzymatic oxidation of tyrosine. It is a process of melanogenesis, okay, which takes place within the specific organelles. And there is one unit known as epidermal melanin unit, in which what happens that there is always association of one melanocytes with 36 to 40 keratinocytes. So the ratio is always 1:36. Okay, so constitutive pigmentation depends on the amount of melanin, never on the number of melanocytes, either on the amount of melanin present in the melanocytes or the size of melanocytes defines the color of skin. Okay, so their quality and relative composition between eumelanin and pheomelanin. There are two types of pigment. Okay, so their composition is the mode of transfer and processing of melanocytes inside the keratinocytes, and not on the number of melanocytes, as I have told. Okay, so these pigments define the color. So pheomelanin is the pigment present in light colored people, which has like yellow to reddish pigment in it, and eumelanin has brown to black pigment in it. Okay, so variation in skin tone is one of the prominent distinguishable feature of human beings, and skin pigmentation in human is variable and has evolved predominantly to regulate the penetration of UV levels. Next slide, please. So the color of the Indian skin shows wide variability. There are various studies such as this Horblin et al. Studied a range of skin parameters including color among 1204 women volunteer across the India. So they reported that the complexion in Indian population ranged from white to brown, and also from north to south. They differentiated that the north people were are fairer than the South people. Okay, so the wide diversity in pigmentation among the Indian population can occur due to presence of several gene polymorphism. So that's why we say that Indians and Africans, why do they have like darker pigmentation, darker color? Why? Because of the deposition of more melanin, as well as some of the genes are present in their skin cells that will lead to darker color of the skin. Next slide, please. Okay, so here is the process of melanogenesis, as I have explained earlier. So more oxidation will be there, more pigmentation will be there, and as reduction will, like this reduction process happens when we start, treating the hyperpigmentation. So more whitening will be there. Okay, so there is one enzyme known as tyrosinase. It is enzyme which accelerates the oxidation process that leads to pigmentation. And what kind of pigment is it? Melanin pigment. And melanin will be produced more if tyrosine activity becomes high. Next slide, please. So we have types of hyperpigmentation. There are various types, but the main types are these ones only. Post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, which can occur post any skin injuries there, either acne. So either acne. So what happens due to injury, hyperpigmentation occurs. Okay, or either due to acne, there is like acne scars are there, so that leads to post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. Sometimes we get this peels done, chemical peels done, laser done, dermabrasions done. So what happens? Why do we get this done? Just to produce more of melanin. But it is not definite that always in case of post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation it will be always darker brown or blackish pigment. It can either be pink, red, brown, or black. Okay, so next subtype is solar lentigines, as I have already mentioned it in the cause of hyperpigmentation. We also call them age spots. Okay, they occur due to the exposure of UV rays. As we age, solar lentigines, they becomes more. So when UV rays come and act on the superficial layer of the skin, melanin pigments, they start activating more and comes over the superficial skin. So they look like proper spots present over the face. Okay, and they like age spots is a result of photo aging. So next comes the type
Ma'am, I wanted to ask you a question. So
sure.
does it depend on like your genetics, like how much like age spots you get? Like are some people like more prone to getting age spots earlier? Are
more prone to, or some people like can get the age spots much later? Does it also depend on genetics, developing these
It
age
does,
spots?
definitely. This is a very good question, Lena. Yeah, it does. See, I have already told you that there are some genetic predisposition that leads to, first of all, the color of the pigmentation is the main. Okay, color of the
Okay.
skin is the main. So there is
Right.
genetic predisposition, but getting tanned and getting burnt through UV rays is always the matter of skin care. Okay, so
Right.
as yeah, so more care you will take care of, more you will be concerned with taking care of your skin, more better skin you will get. So
So, ma'am, the sunscreen that you suggest, like what SPF should we go for that? Like what
I'll come later
chemicals
with it. I'll definitely, yeah, while I'll tell you about the sunscreen, so I'll tell you about that question. Please remind me again. Okay, so third type of hyperpigmentation is melasma. So the main cause of the melasma is still unknown. Okay, but we take it as there are various other causes also, mainly due to hormonal changes, and it occurs in pregnancy when we call it cloasma. Okay, next slide, please. So here, as I told you, that hyperpigmentation is a condition and melasma is a pigmentary disorder. So it is an acquired, it is not primarily, it is acquired pigmentary disorder, which is characterized by hyperpigmentation, brown to grayish brown macules over the face. And we have seen, like, most of the women, like, as we see in day-to-day OPD basis. So most of the, like, more than 90% of the women will be coming to OPD just to get the treatment for melasma. Very less number of male will come. So the study also shows that 90% of the cases women will be having in 90% of the cases women will be having melasma, and 10% of the males of all ethnic and racial groups will be having that. Okay, please put the previous slide. Yeah, so the current classification of melasma is based on the site of lesion. As see, hyperpigmentation and pigmentation, how do we see it? It is either superficial or deep pigmentation. Okay, so it depends on the what happened. So it depends on the site of lesion and on the depth of pigmentation that is determined either histologically or instrumentally. And it can be either pigmentation can be present either over the epidermis, dermis, or sometimes both. Okay, so depending upon the type of melasma we are having, okay, so we will treat it accordingly. That I will come later. Next slide, please. So here comes the cause of melasma again. As I told that the exact cause is still unknown, but still when we talk about hormonal causes, it can be either due to increased estrogen levels, due to ovarian dysfunctions, due to thyroid disorders. Okay, and sometimes and we have seen the main association of melasma is with UV exposure. It's with sun exposure. Okay, so we should be
I'm
come
sorry to interrupt you. Could you please go a little slower in your pace because people in the comment section are unable to, like, you're going a little fast.
I'm going a little fast. Okay, I'll try to. Okay.
Thank
So as I've told, the exact cause of melasma is still unknown, and I also told that this, like, hormonal changes, hormone is the one main cause of melasma when we talk about the studies till now. Okay, so in hormonal, it can be due to increased estrogen levels, either due to ovarian dysfunction or thyroid disorders. Okay, so and the main association is with sun exposure. The do you have any question? Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
No, ma'am. There's no
Okay.
questions, but
So I'll
there's
come next.
positive feedback. Yeah.
Okay. So same like hyperpigmentation, melasma also has genetic predisposition, like mainly in females we get to see this, and there are some phototoxic drugs that play a major role in the development of this hypermelanosis disorder. Okay, let's go to next slide, please.
Ma'am, can you tell us some phototoxic drugs that cause melasma? some drugs that we
there
should
are
avoid?
drugs. Yeah, like minocycline is there. Like there are minocycline and steroid. You know
Yes,
what
ma'am.
happened? That steroid is like it's kind of people get so confused with what type of treatment should they take for hyperpigmentation, and usually
Yes, ma'am.
these quacks will give them steroids for the same. But what happens? Steroid will damage the skin completely. Okay,
Right,
so
ma'am.
yeah, so see what happens that those phototoxic drugs, what are the action of those phototoxic drugs and the UV rays? There is a role of oxidative stress. When we were talking about, more oxidation will be there. Okay, so more pigmentation will be there. So what happens? There will be reactive oxygen species under the influence of UV rays, and then it will lead to solar elastosis, and there is one basement membrane present in the skin. It will get damaged. Okay, let's go to next slide, please. So let's come to the pathophysiology. As you know, UV rays fall over the skin. I told that it will penetrate deep into the skin and activate the melanocyte. Then it will lead to more production of melanin, and then the melanin will rise up into the skin surface, and then the color of the skin will become dark. Okay, and there are other, you know, role of hormones such as alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone, corticotropins, as well as interleukin also plays one role in it, in production of the melanin. Okay, so and also when it comes about dermal stem cell factor and receptor, c-kit has been identified in melasma lesions and are also believed to increase melanogenesis. That will also leads to hyperpigmentation. Let's go to next slide, please. So more generally in melasma, there are paracrine melanogenic factors are also identified from keratinocyte, mast cells, and dermal fibroblasts. These are the cells, same like melanocyte, there are other cells also present in the skin, that is keratinocyte, mast cells, and dermal fibroblast cells. So however, it seems that melasma results from complex interaction of various causative factors, and including UV exposure. Next slide, please. So as we have got the brief idea about the hyperpigmentation part and melasma part, so let's come to the treatment. So we are more concerned about getting the hyperpigmentation treatment.
Could I know how do you differentiate the hyperpigmentation part and acne scars? Like, how do you differentiate them?
Definitely. See, hyperpigmentation is always even. If you like, it can be either over the forehead, or over the side face, over the zygoma, over the nasal bridge, anywhere. But acne scars will be like pinpointed and only over the zygoma area, only over the buccal area. So you can easily differentiate the types of hyperpigmentation present in acne scars and general hyperpigmentation if you are getting it because of UV rays or any other inflammation. And yeah, types of hyperpigmentation in case of skin injury is also different. So the scar will be deeper and thicker in that case. Okay, so let's come to topical creams. So see, first of all, we should be taking treatment from the expertise, or we should never, go to quacks or these cosmetologists and these any XYZ doctor. So we should be taking treatment as prescribed by the doctor, especially dermatologist, when it comes to skin part. Okay, so the first cream we should be using is hydroquinone. It is a skin lightening agent. What happens that it will reduce melanin of the skin. So definitely, if it is reducing melanin of the skin, the skin color will become lighter. So coming to azelaic acid, see, as we have talked about post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, right, due to acne. So what happens? Acne causes inflammation and can leave a scar, okay, leading to hyperpigmentation. So what will azelaic acid do? It will treat discoloration and act as gentle exfoliant. So it is the most safest and effective. But patients, who are not aware of the fact that it will act as exfoliant, they get agitated, they get shocked that, oh, our skin is getting peeled, why is it so? But it is a way that they are getting healed from the hyperpigmentation. So coming to next is kojic acid.
A lot of people have this misunderstanding that it does the thinning of the skin happens because of that. Is it true?
Yeah,
Okay.
no. Thinning of the skin never.
Yeah,
See,
people
we
have that
have a cycle
misunderstanding.
that
Yeah.
will pull. If we can,
Yeah.
if we want to discuss about that, we'll go very long. Okay,
Okay.
we have this cycle. We have one cycle, repetitive cycle that happens, that always occur in a, like, every 28 to 34 days in our skin. So everybody gets new skin after 34 days.
Okay.
So yeah, so it is not like that after applying
Mhm.
azelaic acid there will be thinning of the skin. Yeah, that may happen due to application of steroids. Okay,
Okay.
so coming to next is kojic acid. It is one natural skin lightening agent which is mainly derived from fungus. Okay, what it will do, like I have explained previously about the tyrosine and converting to melanin pigments in the presence of one enzyme, that is tyrosinase. Okay, so what kojic acid will do, it will inhibit production of tyrosine amino acid, which is required for the melanin synthesis when we were talking about pathogenesis. Okay, so once the tyrosine activity will be inhibited, it will not convert keratinocyte into melanocyte, and there will be less production of melanin as well. So the skin color will become lighter. Coming to next slide, please. So the next cream is retinoid. As we all know, must be knowing that it is known as vitamin A, and the subtypes are retinol and retinoid. It always acts as anti-aging and skin lightening agent. So it is like, as we give it any type of hyperpigmentation, whether it be acne scars, whether it be chicken pox scars, any type of skin injury scars. So we always prefer giving retinoids in that. Okay, and next, coming to vitamin C, it is also known as ascorbic acid, which is a powerful antioxidant. So while, see, we all know that vitamin C serums are like very popular these days, but not every vitamin C serum of any brand is very good. We should always go, and like we should always go for the contents present in it and the percentage of the vitamin C present in it. So mainly 20% of the vitamin C we prefer giving our patients for hyperpigmentation and skin rejuvenation. So what will vitamin C do? It will reduce hyperpigmentation by sun damage, and it functions by inhibiting activity of the enzyme tyrosinase. Like we were talking about kojic acid, it was inhibiting the action of tyrosine. Okay, but here vitamin C will inhibit the activity of enzyme tyrosinase, which is responsible for the melanin synthesis. Okay, and the last and also,
Ma'am, before, can I ask one question?
sure,
A lot of people say that applying orange peel or applying lemon directly to your face gives you that vitamin C. Is that okay for your face, applying those, strong
yeah.
home remedies that they,
Yeah,
directly onto your skin?
yeah, home remedies. I'll also explain about the home remedies later. But yeah, this is
Mhm.
actually, you know what, when you're applying orange peel over your skin, okay, first of all, it is in a concentrated form. Okay. And
Yes, ma'am.
sometimes people with sensitive skins become so allergic to it, and they do not, they are not able to find out that why did they get this allergy. So yeah, eating oranges is good, but directly applying anything on the face is not good. So I'll
Yes,
suggest
ma'am.
using vitamin C as a serum. We like, we have a role of home remedies also, that I'll explain it later. So
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, so applying orange peel directly over the sensitive skin is not a good choice, I'll suggest. Okay, so it
Yes, ma'am.
functions, vitamin C, as I'm telling you, that vitamin C will function by inhibiting activity of enzyme tyrosinase, responsible for melanin synthesis. And niacinamide is also known as vitamin B3. It helps in treating hyperpigmentation, helps in producing collagen. What we see, as we age, we tend to reduce our collagen and our face become dull. It our cheeks lax, and what will happen, it will produce more collagen and more it acts as anti-aging process. So all these topical creams are available in other forms also, whether it be like niacinamide, I'm telling you. Niacinamide is available in powdery form also, in serum form also. Same like vitamin C. Vitamin C is also available in form of serums as well as creams and lotions. Okay, so same like other creams. And what precautions should be taken while applying the cream? That we should always, clean the skin with cleanser containing any clean exfoliator, like I'll come with that, that the cleanser should be containing salicylic acid in it, because it will clean off the skin. And then you should be applying, or just like, wash your face with water gently, and then just rub over the face and then apply the creams. Do not apply creams directly over the face. And also you'll get very good results once you start applying it for a longer period of time. And you should be like, it's not like you are using a cream for 1 week or two and then you are saying this cream is not effective. Definitely such things take time, because as the damage, while our skin is getting damaged, it is taking time. The same way, treating it back and bringing it back to normal will take time. So
ma'am, these are the things that we should basically add in our daily morning routine and night routine.
It should, we should count this in our daily routine, definitely.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Let's come to the next slide, please. Okay, so we have discussed about the creams. Now coming to cosmetic procedures, there are of various type of cosmetic procedures, as lasers are there, chemical peels are there, microdermabrasions are there. Okay, so one of the laser is intense pulse light laser. What happens when powerful and rapid flashes of the light will penetrate into the skin, it will break the melanin into tiny fragments. And what will happen? Those tiny fragments of the melanin will rise up to the surface of the skin. So definitely, if the melanin is getting breaking down, so definitely it will lead the hyperpigmentation of the skin will reduce, because melanin is not there, so hyperpigmentation is also not there. So coming to the next part of cosmetic procedure is chemical peels. It is in a way it is controlled chemical burning of the skin. So chemicals like lactic acid, phenols, salicylic acid, glycolic acids, so such kind of chemical peels are available in the market. And please be sure that you are getting these peels done by one expertise or a renowned dermatologist, because any XYZ can ruin your face, ruin your skin. It will, because we have several protocols to follow while doing such procedures. So we use such kind of peels to remove top layer of the skin, and this will scrub away the dark and hyperpigmentation of the skin, and later fresh skin cells will come up on the surface, the melanocytes I was talking about. So come to the next slide, please. So here comes the laser therapy. There are multiple types of laser therapy present. So yeah, first thing I forgot to tell you guys while explaining about the creams, then whenever the hyperpigmentation is superficial, then only we will prescribe cream. Okay, but if the hyperpigmentation is deeper, then we'll definitely prefer laser therapy. Okay, so what will happen? Through laser, light beams target the epidermal layer of the skin. Okay, and it will remove it. The light beam will remove the epidermis, and then before going for the laser treatment, we should always check for the intensity of the hyperpigmentation. Understanding? So whenever see some of the people directly that we have melasma, we have hyperpigmentation, we should be getting the laser done. This is not the right choice. We should always get this examined through some practitioner or dermatologist, whether the hyperpigmentation is superficial or deeper, then get the treatment accordingly. Okay, third one is microdermabrasion. It is done by using a hand-handled machine attached to an abrasive. What will happen? They will roll the machine over the skin of the face, and then the top layer of the skin will be removed. So, and yes, in case of microdermabrasions, laser therapy, chemical peels, okay, the result will be seen in multiple procedures, not in just one go. Coming to next slide.
Ma'am, I wanted to ask about these microabrasions. Nowadays on Amazon, and a lot of celebrities sell their own like microabrasion machines where they're just rolling. They teach you how to roll the skin. Should we? Is that a good alternative to going to the dermatologist, or should we still go to the dermatologist?
No, like I am saying, these are the procedures. Our skin First of all, our skin is the most important, like the most important organ of our body. It is the largest organ.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we shouldn't like play with it, like visiting any nearby doctor or any quacks, or just while reading about it and then getting it done ourselves. Is
Yes,
like
ma'am.
I'm telling you, these procedures are under the study of dermatology due to some reasons.
Right.
Okay.
That's very
So
true.
yeah,
Very
so
true.
that's why we should always visit a dermatologist to get the things done. And in fact, even yeah. So any other question you guys want to ask related to any of the things we have discussed till now?
No, ma'am, that's quite clear. Thank you very much.
So here are the names of types of laser we use for melasma and post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, like Q-switch laser and Q-switch anti-Gag laser, Q-switch alexandrite laser, which is combined with pulse carbon dioxide laser, and also fractional laser. Okay, so these all type of lasers we can use in melasma, and fractional laser can also be used in post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. Please put the next slide. Okay, so as Lena, you were asking about the home remedies. Here I come. So we should
Yes, ma'am.
be applying, any of the things directly over the face. But yeah, some of the things are there that has come under the study and gives good response. So, but still, like as we were talking about creams that just it will not give you result in just 1 week or two. You have to apply it on the regular basis and for a longer period of time, then only you will get a little result. So that's why home remedies are good, but they do not give that good result as compared to the ones we have discussed earlier. Okay, so one is aloe vera. Why aloe vera? Because it has one active ingredient in it, that is aloe, which helps in depigmentation of the skin. And also one good thing about aloe vera is it acts as anti-aging. Okay, and next comes to licorice. It is extracted from an active component called glabridin that has lightening effect on the skin. And the last part is green tea, which contains polyphenol that helps in inhibiting tyrosinase activity. So definitely the melanin pigment will not get activated, right? So coming to next, here we can see the part of like here the woman, we can see she has applied, she has used home remedies here, and we can see the before and the after pictures. Coming to next slide, please. So yeah, as I've told that we will see through the physical examination whether the skin pigmentation is superficial and deeper, and then choose the treatment accordingly. If the hyperpigmentation is superficial, we'll go for the topical creams, and if it is deeper, we'll go for laser. Coming to next, please. Yeah. So
Regarding laser,
yeah.
I would like to ask you here, like a lot of people are concerned that it is not good for sensitive skin and it does more damage to the skin than it, repairs it. Like what is the true thing about it?
What are you asking about the home
About the
remedy?
laser, no, about the laser treatment, ma'am. About the laser treatment being very harsh to the sensitive skin. Yeah, a lot of patients have this doubt, like, and they go to a lot of other places for getting laser. What is the most authentic place they should go to? Like, what do you recommend?
So, like Insha, I have told you, it is not about the sensitivity of the skin, it is about the expertise. Okay, because they will not directly jump to laser treatments. They will see the degree of hyperpigmentation. They will see the level of damage the patient will be having in their skin. And so like there are various type of tests also that we do to check for the levels of hyperpigmentation. So you should be visiting a good doctor. It is never about, see, sensitive, because you have sensitive skin, it is not it is not mandatory that you cannot get the laser treatment done. The doctor will see through it and then he will definitely provide you. So there are intensities of lights present in the lasers, there are numbering. Okay, so it depends on the sensitivity of the skin. So the more sensitive will be the skin, the less intensity of the laser we'll use. Understanding? So
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, so coming to prevention, like we Indians, first of all, we do not take care of our skin. And next, when we even if we think about taking the treatment, we do not maintain it. So once we have get the treatment done, we will be thinking like, okay, it's not going to reoccur. So but never this will never happen, that once you have taken the treatment, it will never cure permanently. So you have to prevent it also. So wearing sunscreen of broad spectrum at least 20 to 30 minutes before leaving the house is mandatory. Okay, not just because you have taken the treatment previously, but because UV rays enter into the house also during the daylight. It is not in the studies, it is not sure that UV rays will fall over the area where the sunlight is present only. It will enter inside the house. So we should be bringing it into the regular routine of applying sunscreen before leaving 20 to 30 minutes the house. Okay, and we should be wearing hats, sunglasses, stoles, and protective clothing while going out. And we should be doing a skincare routine. So like I have told, we should be using exfoliant cleanser containing salicylic acid. It is the best to use, and should be using good moisturizer for hydration to prevent future development of acne. Because if like a patient will get that acne, and then it will lead to post acne scar. Okay, and also we should be avoiding applying soap over the face. Understanding, because our skin contains ceramide, that has moisturizing property in it. So we should never apply soap over the skin. And we should never wash our face with hot water. So these are little things we should be very precautious about while taking care of the skin. Coming to next. Yeah.
Block their pores for somebody who is acne prone.
Yeah.
Like people who have who are prone to acne, and does the all like what spectrum should they go for, like on sunscreen?
Okay. See, minimally we should be, using 30 plus SPF. But depending upon the hyperpigmentation, 50 plus SPF is the best type of SPF. And also, I'll tell you about the types of sunscreen present over there. So there are two various types of sunscreen that I explained later. Okay, so that time only I'll tell you, Insha, that what broad spectrum sunscreen and what types of sunscreen should be using exactly. So coming to next. So guys, we have actually had a brief idea about what hyperpigmentation is, what melasma is, and how can we treat it, and also the prevention. So we are basically more concerned about UV induced damage that caused to the skin. What will happen that we have 6 to 7 types of Indian, like not just Indian, we have 6 to 7 types of skin that comes under the category of Fitzpatrick's. So we Indian and Asians have 5 to 6 type of skin. Understanding? So there is a role of UV rays, UVB, UVA rays. UVB rays will lead to skin burning, and UVA rays will leads to skin tanning. How does it happen? Why? Because like how will you make the difference? What happens then? The UVA rays, UVA rays will penetrate deep into the skin, and it will directly affect the melanocytes. But UVB rays will always act on the superficial skin, that will lead to burning of the skin. So this is the difference. Coming to next point.
Ma'am, we have a question in the comments from Valpula. She's asking, how do we know whether hyperpigmentation is superficial or is it deep? And like, what are the signs to differentiate it? Like, how do dermatologists know whether, it's superficial hyperpigmentation or whether it's deep hyperpigmentation?
Okay, like I have said, that first of all, we see it clinically. Okay, clinically, if we are seeing it with the glass slide or with the lamp or with the lens, so we see it whether the hyperpigmentation is darker or purple in color. Okay, so we see it like there are layers. There are 4 layers in the epidermis. Okay, and
Yes,
the
ma'am.
color of the skin, when it is, melanin defines the color of the skin. Understanding? So we'll see if the color is darker, darker, that means it is
Okay,
deep.
ma'am.
And if color is lighter, that means it is superficial. Then next comes the wood lamp. As we were discussing the examination part, there we had written wood lamp examination. Okay, and there was a picture showing. So through that we'll see the level of hyperpigmentation. So I cannot explain it about the types of epidermis we have. And then when
Yes.
melanin deposit in, like, let's say the melanin got deposit in the third layer of the epidermis, it will give
Right.
brown to purple color. And when it will run, so when it will come up, then it will become lighter. And then when it will come to the superficial layer of the epidermis, that is corneum, then it will become more lighter.
Okay, so
Understand?
basically all
So
of
this
this
way we
is under examination, like, and examining the different types of colors,
the clinical
right?
examination we'll check.
Okay.
Okay, so coming to the slides, please. So as we were talking about UV rays, how does it burn your skin? How does it tan your skin? So this was the difference between both. So what will happen? And also they will damage the DNA, and there will be activation of several pathways like P53 proteins. So it will act as melanogenesis and also results in induced pigmentation. Coming next, please. So like I told that there are two types of UVA and UVB, and also there are subtypes of UVA, that is UVA1 and UVA2. Okay, so I've already explained that UVA will penetrate deep into the skin, and UVB will it will directly act on the superficial skin of the layer of the skin. So coming next, please.
Ma'am, if I can just stop you for a second. Again, a person commented in the comments, Nusra, if someone will go for laser, is there any chance the pigmentation may come back? Because obviously going through these very expensive treatments, we're always afraid that if it comes back, then, what's the point of it all?
See, I have already said it before that this is like
Right.
you should never be sure that if you have taken the treatment, it will never come back. You have to maintain it. While I have told you about the prevention as well
Yes,
as
ma'am,
the
you have.
maintenance. So once you get the treatment done, you have to maintain it. UV exposure will always be there, right?
Mhm.
And
Yes,
inflammatory
ma'am.
factors will always be there. So all you can do is prevent it and maintain it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. As they say, prevention is always the best remedy.
Actually, yeah. So as we have talked a lot about this, so this data, please put the previous slide. So it supports the fact that the whole UV spectrum is responsible for the cellular responses and tissue damage that are in turn involved in the stimulation of pigment and development and or exacerbation of the pigmentary lesions. Please put the next slide. So we had basically we had idea about UV damage, UV exposure, and then leads to DNA damage, and then sunscreen play the major role in prevention of it. Okay, so how do we protect it? What is the daily photo protection? Okay, so sunscreen is the answer. Since solar exposures have been clearly involved in several short and long-term harmful effect of the skin, so there are various strategies to achieve an even skin tone, and treat skin hyperpigmentation includes exogenous protection approaches such as photo protection. So what is that? That is sunscreen only. So let me tell you more about sunscreen. Please put the next slide. So there are two types of sunscreen. One is organic and one is mineral based sunscreen. So in organic sunscreen, please put the next slide. So what happens in organic, it acts by strong absorption of the wavelength. As we have read, I forgot to tell you about the wavelength. UVA and UVB, they have two types of wavelength. They are type 2. Type 1 has 320 to 400 nanometer wavelength, and type 2 is having 340 to 400 nanometers. Okay, so these organic sunscreen, these organic ones act by strong absorption of those wavelength, I'm telling you, over a defined spectrum. Okay, that is of both UVA as well as UVB. Okay, and the ones with mineral origins reflect or diffuse UV rays along the all UV band. So most often combines with organic sunscreen to extend the broadness of protection. So we call it, right? Am I audible to you people?
Ma'am, you are audible. We can
Okay.
hear you.
Yeah. So Insha, you were asking me, right? Hello.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am, you're audible.
oh, you were no. I am talking about sunscreen. So you were asking me
Yes,
about the
ma'am.
sunscreen. So, yeah. So when we call it, sunscreens. So it is not only the one type of sunscreen we should be using. It is the combination of both the sunscreen, like as well as organic as well as mineral origins. Okay, because
Okay.
they both act differently. One absorbs the wavelength. That will protect sunburning. Okay, and one will reflect or diffuse the UV rays. Understanding? So this is a very good thing that you got to know this today. That and also these are such following are such contents which should be what is it happening, pointer? Okay, so following are the contents which should, these are the contents we should, while buying the sunscreen, we should always check for these number of contents. Okay, the composition, like butyl methoxy, dibenzomethylene, and like comes TDSA or Mexoryl, then comes DTS or Mexoryl, then comes methylene bis benzotriazole, tetramethylbutylphenol. So while buying the sunscreen, we should always check for the composition in it. Coming to next slide, please. Out of all these, we will talk about TDSA and Miraxyl. Okay, so why we are talking about TDSA Miraxyl here? The content I have told previously. Why? Because it has good results, like it protects from DNA damage, from photo aging, UV induced hyperpigmentation, UV induced immunosuppression. Okay, so final sunscreen products are usually a combination of both UVB and UVA absorber, as I have explained you, Insha, here. So leading to absorption profile against the majority of UV spectrum. Okay, so here is the chart in the left. Yeah, so as I told you, UVB, it will go to the skin surface. UVA will penetrate deep into the dermis, so leading to skin damage and DNA damage as well. Come next slide, please. So the combination is like broad spectrum sunscreen. The combination is known as of the organic as well as mineral ones are known as broad spectrum sunscreen. They offer considerable protection against UV exposure, especially in daily UV exposure conditions, representative of realistic everyday lives and exposure conditions. Okay, so there were various studies. So one of the study came out like exposure to standard UV daylight spectrum, like they checked it for the daily UV radiation. Okay, so what happened, that DUVR exposure led to altered regulation of 30. I told you about some other cells like fibroblasts, keratinocytes, same like melanocyte, right? So this daily UV radiation exposure led to altered regulation of 35 genes in the fibroblast and 65 genes in the keratinocytes, so which were involved in a host of processing, including oxidative stress response. We read it up in the, like in previous fifth slide, I guess, about the oxidative stress response leading solar elastosis and basement membrane damage. Okay, and also cell growth and inflammation, among others. Next slide, please. So this yeah.
Ma'am, what are the food that we should avoid or take while we are going through this treatment of hyperpigmentation? Like, is there anything we should avoid, the patient should avoid, that could just...
No, I don't think so. Food has any relationship because food is not a part of cause here.
Okay.
Okay, food has nothing to do with it. But
Mhm.
yeah, this cooking food is one, because we women mainly they cook food every day, right? So they are
Yeah.
exposed to the burning flame of the gases. So
Yeah.
while they are making chapatis or like whatever, so they are more exposed to so that leads to, that comes in the category of post-inflammation
Oh, okay.
post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. That
Yeah.
is also one of the cause for this. Okay,
Yeah.
so like daily UV radiation exposed models in the presence of sunscreen products with sun protection factor. See, we have read about it that it will lead to DNA damage and all. So these exposed models in the presence of sunscreen product with sun protection factor of 13 and UVA protection factor of 10.5 showed a significant reduction of daily radiation induced alter of gene expression. Okay, so regular use of broad spectrum sunscreen has been shown to be very effective in reducing the development of squamous cell carcinoma as well as actinic keratosis. You know what will happen? I have told you about epidermal melanin unit. I told you that one melanocyte is linked with 36 to 40 keratinocyte, right? Do you guys remember? So what will happen if this
Yes, ma'am, we
epidermal
do.
melanin unit will alter? That will lead to carcinogenesis. That means the pigments I was telling you about, pheomelanin, eumelanin. So in this case, if the epidermal melanin unit will alter, pheomelanin is increased in such a condition that will lead to skin cancer, carcinogenesis. Okay, so here also that's why for the treatment, for the protection, regular use of broad spectrum sunscreen have been shown to be very effective in reducing the development of squamous cell carcinoma as well as actinic keratosis, and also clinical signs of photoaging that we have been discussing since then. Come to the next slide, please. So further, the use of sunscreens have been shown to offer protection against hyperpigmentation disorders. The primary treatment of post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation aims at preventing and treating the underlying inflammatory condition like acne, like skin injury. Understanding? So we have to treat acne first. We have to cure that injury. We have to, heal that injury first. Then we have to jump to treatment for hyperpigmentation, not directly for hyperpigmentation. Okay, let's say one person got herpes zoster over the face or herpes ophthalmitis over the face. So the hyperpigmentation will be there along with, but still there are not the fibroblasts are still not they have not regrowth. There is no regrowth again. What am I saying? So they have not, what happens when we have the injury? Fibroblasts, neutrophils, everything will come up over the skin, and then the healing process will start, right? So in this case, if a person has got the injury, fibroblasts will not regrow this fast. So once only the fibroblast growth will be there completely, then only we should be treating that hyperpigmentation post injury. Okay. So coming to, there is one more study in Moroccan pregnant women. It demonstrated that the effectiveness of the photo protection from melasma using sunscreen on the darkened skin sites was very good, because we have this cloasma, same like melasma. When when the woman is having it during the pregnancy, we call it cloasma. So this photo protection, that is sunscreen, played a major role in it. Okay, and one study showed that out of 185 patients, only 3% who use sunscreen developed melasma. So can you just relate the value of sunscreen here? See, out of 185 patient, almost 97% of patient had good result because of this thing, using sunscreen, and they did not they did not got the melasma. So as Indian present with several sun induced damages including hyperpigmentation and photoaging, the use of sunscreen is therefore of paramount importance in the Indian scenario mainly. Coming to next slide, please. So the whole scenario emphasized the need for greater awareness of UV-induced skin disorders and their prevention in the Indian society. So next, we are showing you one video that how the laser treatment, and please play the video for us.
Haven't used any trials in this patient.
So first she's explaining that whenever we are doing the laser, we should always apply topical anesthesia over the face, at least to get it absorbed so that the patient will not feel the pain. And there should be like, Bushra was asking that, ma'am, laser treatment, like you were asking something related to laser, Bushra. So, we should always get this thing done with the, like through some expertise or the dermatologist, because there are some protocols to be followed while, doing the procedures. So
Yes,
here,
ma'am.
as you can see the distance, you can see the way she is holding her face. Okay, so there are so many small things we have to take care.
Yeah,
And
yes,
while
but
doing
maybe other people might not know about it, like
yes,
you
yes.
know, the parlor ladies, they could omit these essential steps.
Right. We get some incidences like this lady, this doctor, she has provided her eye protection also. This is the most important part when you get when you're doing the laser. There are so many cases
Okay.
coming up, getting, retinitis, the cornea got damaged because the doctors, the quacks, when we visit any unexperienced person, they forget to give them eye protection. So here is one
Okay.
statement given by Dr. Howard Murad, that healthy skin is a reflection of overall wellness. So I
Very
hope,
well said.
yeah, you got, like, you could understand a little about what is hyperpigmentation, what is melasma, and how can we treat it, as well as how to protect it. And maintenance is important.
Yes, that's very important. Exactly.
So this was
Okay,
all.
ma'am, that was really enlightening. Everything related to the hyperpigmentation, the melasma, and how to use sunscreen. Now we would like to come to a Q&A session. So one of the questions that was asked from the audience was that should oily skin people, like people who have oily skin, should they also use sunscreen, or should they avoid it because
They
it
should
could.
use, definitely. This is also one of the questions that everybody comes up with, because so many people in India have oily skin. See,
Yes.
there are various gel. See, that comes in the other category. We have, like, various
Right.
forms of sunscreen and consistency. Like there are gel-based sunscreen, there are oil-based sunscreens. So the people with like having oily skin they may use matte finish sunscreen or gel-based sunscreen. They are not that sticky.
Okay, so oily people should use like gel-based or like matte-based, and
Yeah.
normal people with dry skin, like what type of sunscreen should they use? This was also
They can
asked.
use oil-based sunscreen.
Okay, and no combination skin?
Gel-based will be best for both.
Okay, okay.
And
Thank you
then
very much.
these days the market is flooded with sunscreen, different brand, different types. Like, how do we know the authenticity of which one is good and which one is providing like a good spectrum for somebody?
See, Insha, like I have told you, I have also mentioned the contents which are, good for the sun, good for the sun, good for the skin. So
Yes,
we
ma'am.
should always, while purchasing the sunscreen, we should always go for either 30 plus SPF, never go for 30 below, because, we are like we Indians, like, see, as the, countries those are towards the equator are exposed more to the UV rays. So according to that, if we go through all the studies that have come till now, so we should always be using 50 plus SPF. So yeah, but yeah, so if you are not working much under the sunlight, so you can also go for 30 plus sunscreen.
And
That
ma'am,
like, yeah.
no, I was actually asking about the brands, like which brand should people go for? Because in the market there are too many brands and it is very confusing for people to choose on a regular basis for regular use. Like if I name one, Neutrogena is one providing, then there might be L'Oreal providing. So there's so many brands, and how do we know which one is authentic? That's the thing
See,
that I
Insha, we cannot, we cannot just take out the names of the brand,
Yes,
but
I know,
yeah,
but yeah,
as we should be smart enough to see the contents and to, understand what kind of sunscreen we like our will suit us, right? So as once you know your skin is oily or your skin is dry, you should be using gel based sunscreen. You need
also
50 SPF
drugstore
sunscreen,
sunscreen is
okay,
good.
and you need a sunscreen which contains such constituents, okay. So if the brand is fulfilling all the criteria, then you should be purchasing it. If it is not, then you should not purchase it, right?
So, ma'am, I think a drugstore, like a drugstore sunscreen, I think would do, I think, better. What do you say about that?
Come
Uh,
again.
a, a, a sunscreen bought from a drugstore, like some
Yeah,
pharmacies.
always this is like this is understood, right? Always we should, for skin products, we should always go for medicated ones.
Yes, ma'am. Mm.
If you are smart enough, if you're intelligent enough or educated enough to know about the contents, you can check contents in any brand, and if it is fulfilling the criteria, then you can buy it. But otherwise, always and always go for the medicated ones, I'll suggest.
And also that, like in makeup these days, there is sunscreen added to it. Like, what would you suggest that? Is it, should we use that kind of sunscreen, or is that enough? Like in certain, like primers or foundations, sometimes there is certain amount of sunscreen present in that. So will that be enough for a person?
Yeah, but you know what? In makeup, if the sunscreen is present, but there will also be, availability of chemicals that are harmful for our skin.
Okay.
Like,
Yes.
some, like most of the makeups contain sulfates. And what will happen? They are salts that are formed when sulfuric acid reacts with the chemical. Then, that what will happen, that it will, damage the skin directly. Even if
Okay.
you are applying sunscreen based makeup, that is
Yeah.
not, preventing you from getting your skin damaged. So this is
Hmm.
the reason we should never ever buy products. There are other things known as permanent makeup. There are, they use pigmentation that are not that harmful as compared to the makeup we use in day to day life. And also, like we have a lot to talk about everything when it comes to skin, and it is so interesting, I'll tell you, that when there are timings of makeup in the whole life, like till the time of your death, you can apply makeup for only a length of time. You cannot apply makeup every day, like and according to studies, that if, like, inshallah, if we get to talk about this, like this is a very very interesting topic. So we have timings, like for how long should we apply lipstick in a day, for how long should we apply concealer or foundation in a day. So like everything has its own way. So, and also makeup contains paraben
Hmm.
along with sulfates, and there are other, and also and these are all harmful things. That toluene is there, talc is there, and also artificial fragrances are also available. So you should never go for makeup containing sunscreens. It may protect
Okay.
you from UV rays, but never from the damaging damaging of skin.
Also, ma'am, there is a
Um,
question in the comments section of Zoom
yeah.
asking like, oh, can somebody be allergic to sunscreen, and if, like, how do the person know if somebody is allergic to, and what is the cure for it? Can somebody
See,
be allergic to skin allergy?
yeah, the people may have allergy to any, so they have to get the patch testing done. If they are getting allergy from any sunscreen, whether it be organic ones or whether it be mineral ones, or whether it contains anything that should, like, that one sunscreen should contain. So first of all, the person should check whether it is he's getting allergic to any of these. If still he's confused with what is the thing that producing allergy, so he should get the patch allergy test done.
Ma'am, I would also like to ask one other question that was asked in the comments about perioral melasma, melasma around the mouth. How do we deal with that? Is there a certain cause that only causes
It is not
perioral
melasma.
melasma?
Okay. So Bushra, first of all, it is not melasma. Melasma is a disorder. What happened? This is melanosis.
Right.
This is a condition, the
Okay,
darkening.
melanin.
So, as we like some of the women, like I'll tell you one by one, some of the women, they get the threading done. So due to, picking up the, plugging up the hair, what happens that, the pigmentation, because the skin becomes loose and the pigmentation becomes more. And also sometimes, our like prominent parts get exposed to sun more. So the nose part,
Right.
the mouth part, this part will be exposed more to sun. So it will lead to hyperpigmentation. So as
Okay.
I'm telling you, for this we should be using those topical creams we have discussed previously. So that is
Right, ma'am.
yeah.
Can we have the Q&A slides, please?
Dr. Fareen, ma'am, would you
Yeah.
also suggest like one should not apply makeup while going through the treatment or the laser treatment specifically? If somebody's going through a laser treatment, would you ask that person to avoid makeup, because makeup has become very common to girls these days in colleges and schools as well. It is, yeah. What would you
Yeah.
say?
See, I have mentioned about the products available in makeup, right? Like paraben, sulfate, talc, fragrances, okay, and phytanol. So these are the products that are available in the makeup. So whether it be any kind of makeup, if you are getting laser done just to get the protection, okay, just to get the treatment, so you are applying makeup again, you
Yes,
are damaging your skin again. So you should never apply makeup while getting the treatment done.
true.
Or else there are various, you should be applying lots and lots of moisturizer, then sunscreen, then you can apply a little makeup, but never overburden it like your face. And your skin
Ma'am,
needs to
another. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, you go
Sorry,
ahead.
sorry. Please continue. Please
Okay.
continue.
I was asking,
Okay.
can a home remedy and and tropical treatments go together? Is it okay to do the? Is Pareen on? Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
No, okay, you're asking that does like we can use topical treatment as well as
Home treatment together at the same time.
yeah, you can use, but not simultaneously. Like if you are applying cream and all together you're applying the home remedy, so definitely it will wipe off the previous product, right?
No,
So
a lot of people switch. Like in the daytime, they apply clindamycin or something like that, and in the night they're doing haldi or something like that, or besan, like whatever their home remedies are. Like, is
see,
it is
Insha, applying haldi is not a good thing. You should, because you know what, you should always neutralize it with either water or milk. Okay, and that too, if you have applied it, you should wipe it off completely, because what will happen? It will clog the pores and then it will lead to acne.
yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, another question that was asked was that eating vitamin C and vitamin B orally, is that enough to produce that antioxidant effect that we want?
Come again, please. I'm sorry. I could.
Actually, there was a question from the audience asking,
Yeah.
consuming vitamin C and vitamin B, is that enough, to prevent, hyperpigmentation? Should we take it orally every single day? Just asking about that in general.
Okay, so yeah, definitely, like it is enough. But the mainstay, what we have concluded here, we have concluded about the role of sunscreens, right? So
Yes,
along
ma'am.
with vitamin C and any type of acid, any type of serum they're using, should always use along with sunscreen. That too of a good quality and containing both organic as well as mineral ones.
Okay, so they're useful oral supplements. They're useful oral supplements, to other sorts of treatment as well, like the vitamin C and vitamin B.
Supplements, as in, like, yes, there are various type of supplements, right? So you can
Okay.
everybody knows it, like these oranges are there,
Right.
You are asking
Okay.
about food supplements only, no?
Yeah, food supplements, like you know, what supplements should we take? Like a lot of people take like multivitamins as supplements,
Okay,
you know,
supplements
thinking
as
that
in
will.
tablets you're asking. I thought you're asking in food supplements. Yes, there
No,
are
no, no, no,
that you
no.
can also take. Like if you know, you will find a good result if you start using, if you start taking vitamin C for like, let's say you have started taking vitamin C today, and like you know, you should be using it for another 1 to 2 months, and then you'll find the result yourself. But also, you should be applying and using sunscreen.
Okay, ma'am. Right, that's very true. Another question was that, can you tell us some sources of licorice and green tea that we could use, you know, for the
We
home
have those
remedies?
green tea bags, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Right.
and
Okay.
liquorized sources, like it is a common name for it is a plant. We get it. I cannot just take out the name. I do not remember the name of that plant, but yeah, that
Right.
you, yeah, if you will try to find out, it will, like you know, it is a common name for some glabra kind of plant. I cannot remember it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Okay,
so
so
are you
mhm.
saying that applying green tea directly on the face, if it's is it effective?
no,
Is it absorbable?
it is effective, but like Insha, I have mentioned it there, then and there only, that if you are using it for a longer period of time, and that too on the continuous basis, and you should always use the green tea bags, you know, keep it in the colder area, like you should freeze it, and then do massage every morning or every night while sleeping, while before going to bed. So yeah.
Okay. And what are the causes of excess melanin production? Like you said, there's some causes. Can you please elaborate on that?
Come again.
Causes of excess melanin production.
Yeah, we have read it. See, the what all, like throughout all the discussion we have, like you know, I have again and again and again mentioned UV sun exposure. Understanding?
Okay.
This is the
Right,
cause.
ma'am. Okay.
And then there are various inflammatory conditions. Like we just like some 5 minutes ago we discussed about the flames coming from the gas stove.
Oh,
Understand?
right. Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
and also acne scars. Like once you know, acne is one inflammatory condition, and also if somebody gets a skin injury or any skin disease, whether, let's talk about, okay, we were talking about face, right? Let's talk
Yes,
about
ma'am.
other diseases present over the body. So there are fungal infections. There are various type of other infections, you know, that will happen, and that by the time it will heal, it will leave a scar or hyperpigmentation. So you know, we cannot like just wait, I'll start my video. So we cannot assure the person to, you know, completely cure the hyperpigmentation, yes, but we can try to prevent it getting worse, and try to treat a little. Understanding?
Ma'am, drug interactions,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Ma'am, retinols, can retinols be used with niacinamide as you had told
Yes,
that
yes,
those are
yes.
the
I
okay.
I should have mentioned it. This is my bad. See,
Yeah.
we should never, you know, we should never use all of it together. We
Yes,
should,
ma'am. That's
if
what
you are
the
using
drug
vitamin
interactions.
C, yeah, if you're using vitamin C, you should never be using niacinamide. If you're using niacinamide, you should never be using vitamin C,
Yes,
because
ma'am.
it will even, you know, worsen the skin.
Yes, then yes, ma'am.
So if you are using vitamin C in the morning, use niacinamide in the night. Okay,
Okay.
this way
Okay.
you can use, but never
Okay.
together. But never together.
Also, ma'am, like how long will one application of sunscreen work? Like how frequently should we apply the sunscreen?
Okay, so yeah, at least twice or thrice during the daytime. First,
During
like I have told you the timings that. Just hang on, I have one. Give me a second, please.
yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me now, guys? I'm sorry, my battery was.
Ma'am, we can hear you.
Yeah, so what were you asking, Insha? Tell me.
Ma'am, I was asking like how frequently one should apply
Yes.
sunscreen during the day, and also ma'am, what about the night time, during the evening, sunset time, like what is the role of sunscreen at that hour of the day?
Okay. So, Insha, yeah, you should never be applying sunscreen mainly during the night hours because UV rays are not there at all.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Only during the day timings you should apply the
I
sunscreen.
wanted to ask like the sunset time, like the evenings, like
Yeah,
early evenings.
I'm
Yeah.
coming to that. So first of all, you should be applying once you wake up, you get like freshen up, and then you should be applying sunscreen then and that time only. So by if like by 9 o'clock you should be applying. If you're applying, I am telling you, just try to imagine the time. If you're applying at 9 a.m., you should be applying it again at 12. You should again be applying it. 12 p.m. and then if possible you can also apply it at 3 to 4 p.m. But yeah, application for like 2 times is sufficient.
Okay.
Okay, the slides, please. Can we have the slides? Okay, so ma'am, we just want to go through these quick questions. What SPF sunscreen should we buy? Just to refresh our memory.
I guess this is for the fourth or the fifth time I'm explaining that we should always, we should always go for 30 plus SPF depending on the exposure of the sun we have. So 50 plus SPF is the best of all, but yeah, 30 SPF plus can also work.
Okay, next slide.
How can
Next slide, please.
patient be prevented in the first place? Like in the initial very stage, how can we prevent it?
Come again?
Ma'am, how can we prevent the hyperpigmentation in the very first place?
Can anyone please put the slide on that the prevention part we have mentioned in the.
Okay.
Okay, so here Bushra has the answer, like I have explained already. Along with that, I also had mentioned washing face with hot water is not a good thing, and we should be using cleansers, okay, on the regular basis, and wearing sunscreen of broad spectrum at least 20 to 30 minutes before leaving the outdoors, and then wearing hats, sunglasses, stoles, protective clothing. Yes, and also, how can I forget it? Yeah, protective clothing also, runs a major role in it. Not every clothing, but yeah, there are various type of clothing that will, help preventing entrance of the UV rays directly onto your skin. Understanding. So cotton material is the best.
Okay, ma'am.
So I guess we have covered most of the part. So anything
Okay.
you would want to know about?
Yes, ma'am.
So I hope I could make you people understand a little.
It was a very interactive session, and especially the Q&A session was very interactive. We literally bursted you with so many questions. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, guys, for giving me this
Okay. So I would like to thank Dr. Farheen for enlightening us on this very misunderstood topic. And thank you to Dr. Insha and Dr. Lina Mariam for their hours of hard work to make this possible. And also thank you to the SIMSA representatives, Pooja and Lakshita. So we hope this session was very informative for you all, and we thank the audience for joining us today. And we hope to see you in the future. Have a good night. Goodbye.
Bye, guys. Have a good night.